My husband refuses to stop hanging out with his female best friend. I have had enough and gave him an ultimatum. It's me or her. I, 37F, have been with my husband, 44M, for 17 years. We have kids, a dog, and we used to own a business together. He has this friend, who happens to be his little brother's ex-girlfriend, 30F. She's been in and out of our lives since she broke up with my BIL over 12 years ago. Over the last 4 years or so, she's been constantly messaging my husband. She never sends me a message, unless my husband tells her that he's not home and she's on her way. Happened only once in 4 years. She's engaged and has a baby on the way. Both my husband and his friend say they have a brother-sister relationship. My kids don't like her or her kid. Her kid is 7 years younger than our youngest child. They feel like they have to babysit her when she comes over. This is what bothers me about their relationship. 1. I'm never included in their conversations online, even when she invites herself over too. My husband once told his brother that he thought that she was hot and if he was younger and single he would try to date her. My BIL sent me a message to warn me about their relationship. When I spoke to my husband about it, he laughed it off and told me his brother was jealous. 3. During an intimate moment, my husband told me that she was the only person he would ever ask to do a threesome with us. That was never discussed between us before. Not even the option of a threesome. 4. When she comes over, she barely speaks directly to me, always to my husband. I have to butt into the conversation for her to even acknowledge me. I'm tired of feeling like the third wheel in their friendship. Last year, he gave me one of his old cell phones because mine had broken. He hadn't logged out of his Messenger account, so I used it to my advantage and read their messages at the time. He had admitted to her that he had told his brother that she was hot and that if he was younger and single, he would date her. He then told her I wasn't home when he said that, and I didn't know exactly what he said. Her response was to send him the crying, laughing emoji. Ever since, I feel like they both occasionally disrespect me in their conversations. All he does is talk about her. Often, he never makes her wait when she texts him, yet sometimes when I text him, he takes a half hour to answer me. So tell me, would I be the asshole if I told him that he had to choose between his relationship with me and his friend, relevant comments commenter? In your shoes, I'd hire a private investigator to see what they're doing when they are not around you. If you catch my drift. NTA for asking him to choose, but you know it isn't going to go well. OP. She lives in another city, my husband's hometown. It's accessible by bus and metro. We never go to her place, ever. She usually comes to our place with her fiancé. I'm pretty sure that whatever's going on with them is taking place on Messenger in a private conversation. Her fiancé doesn't use Facebook or Messenger commenter. NTA, but be prepared to follow through if he doesn't pick you. OP. That's what I'm telling myself. OP on the friend's child's father's whereabouts. OP. He gets custody of their child once a month. I've never met him. According to her, he's controlling. That's all I know about him. They broke up a year after their daughter was born. Update 1. So I guess this has been coming for a while. I've got my ducks all lined up. I spoke to him. He admitted that he did have a crush on her. That's when I told him we were done. Obviously, he doesn't want to split amicably. Finally found a lawyer who can help me out with the paperwork at a lower cost, $600. I am also currently looking for an apartment. I've applied at a few places, just waiting to hear back from them. I've thought about setting up a GoFundMe to help me absorb the cost of everything, lawyer, the move, furniture, and everything else, but I'm afraid of him finding the campaign. I've already opened up a secret bank account and PayPal account. I'm hoping to have enough money saved up / collected by the beginning of next week. I want to be out of there as soon as possible with my kids. I'll be updating again soon. Relevant comments OP on how her husband reacted and if he is going to get a lawyer. OP. He's pissed and gives me the silent treatment. I don't know if he plans on getting himself a lawyer. Commenter. If he acts violent at any time, call police and make a report of it. Get everything documented. Take pics of your belongings. So if he does property damage, that is recorded. You have the message from your specs bill? The one warning you or evidence of his saying about being with her if he was younger and single. Keep everything that is evidence of an emotional affair. Hope you have another support system and that things work out. Good luck. OP. I've kept all the evidence of his emotional affair. I don't really have a support system around here. I've been pretty much keeping to myself since my youngest daughter was born. Update 2. We've had several talks over the last few weeks. At first, he wanted to work things out. As a matter of fact, he says he never meant any of it, and he keeps apologizing for breaking my trust. Now he's being a plain dick. Then he flipped and decided that since I don't want to work on things, he left for his brother's house. He hasn't seen our kids in the past month. He talks to them on the phone, but that's about it. So far, to piss me off, he's cut mine and the kids' cell phone service. So I had to get us new SIM cards for that because otherwise we wouldn't have phones. He's refused to pay anything in regards to school supplies and uniforms. He doesn't want to give me a dime. He hasn't done his taxes this year, which means I won't get any family allowance, CCTV. which cuts me $1,800 a month on my budget. I was able to sign the kids up for a local school supply distribution. The only thing they don't help with is the uniforms. Thankfully, only my older two need uniforms. My oldest has some old uniform shirts that will be passed down to my other child, which means my daughter will be wearing her older brother's shirts. She's really annoyed by the situation and has been giving me lots of attitude about it. But at the moment, I can't afford t-shirts at $35 a piece with the school's logo on it, so she has no choice. Unfortunately, uniforms are mandatory. I spoke to his friend as well. I told her everything that was going on. He told her he left me because I cheated on him, which isn't true, and she blames herself for what happened. Personally, I just think she was putting on a show. I haven't spoken to her since. If you ask me, I still think she is a hypocrite. Finances are tough. I barely make ends meet. Thankfully, food banks exist because once rent is paid, I barely have anything left over for bills and groceries. I still haven't been able to get the money for a lawyer yet. I've tried taking loans, but that didn't go over well. I've tried the borrow sub, and that hasn't worked either. Now it's like we're in a state of Cold War. He refuses to talk to me. For the time being, I guess he'll come around eventually. For the kids' sake, I hope. I feel like sometimes I'm drowning in all this mess. Edit. Lots of comments have come up on this post. I didn't expect as many comments. I've read as many as I can, and I'll address a few points. 1. He's gone to stay with his other brother, the second one in the family. My SDBX is the oldest of 3. It's the youngest of his brothers who told me what's up too. I filed my taxes back in March. He was supposed to file his a few weeks later. At the time, everything was good between us, and I listed him as my spouse because that's what we've been doing for the past 17 years since we got married. I have to file my next taxes as single. 3. The school uniforms. My oldest kids are in high school, a public high school. Uniforms are mandatory across the school board. I've contacted the school, and unfortunately, they don't have any low-cost uniforms. They suggested I take a look at local thrift shops. They do have an emergency budget for uniforms, but only if you have recently arrived in the country for. I've contacted several lawyers. I know what my rights are. I know how much it's going to cost me to take him to court. He's quit his job, so suing him for alimony or whatever is going to be tough. I don't qualify for legal aid based on previous taxes. It takes at least 90 days of him being out of the family home for me to do anything against him. He's been gone for less than 2 weeks. 5. As for family, I have been no contact with my parents since 2010. They do not know my younger children, nor do they care. I won't be getting into the reasons why here. 6. His family has always been low contact with us. His parents have never liked me, and his brother who is staying with doesn't like me either. Edit 2. For those who are saying that the timeline doesn't add up, I left with my 4 kids at the beginning of July to visit my elderly grandmother who doesn't live in the same province as us. It was supposed to give us breathing time to try and work things out. When I came back with the kids, he was already gone. When I was at my grandmother's, he would barely talk to me, but talk to our kids via Messenger. My trip with the kids to my grandmother's is a yearly trip. I didn't know that he would go from wanting to stay and work things out to leaving. I was blindsided by that. Update 3. You won't believe what happened last night. I finally reached my breaking point. After weeks of silence, the husband decides to waltz back in, as if nothing's happened, demanding to see the kids. I told him he couldn't just come and go as he pleases, that he needs to be consistent if he wants to be a part of their lives. He ignored me and tried to go upstairs to their rooms. That's when things went off the rails. The kids, especially my oldest, refused to come down and see him. My daughter shouted from her room, "You don't care about us. You just care about her." He looked stunned, but he quickly turned his anger on me, accusing me of poisoning their minds against him. I told him to leave, and he lost it, shouting about how ungrateful we all were and how hard he's trying. He stormed out, but not before kicking over the coffee table and breaking a lamp. It was pure chaos. After he left, I sat the kids down to explain what was happening. They were upset, of course, but I assured them that I'm doing everything I can to make sure we're safe and together. My oldest even suggested getting a restraining order, which honestly, I'm considering. The next day, I received a call from his friend. She had the nerve to tell me that my husband had called her, crying about how I'm ruining his life. She tried to guilt-trip me into taking him back, saying that he's just confused and needs support. I told her to stay out of it and hung up. Financially, things are still tight, but there's a glimmer of hope. A local charity has stepped in to help with the school uniforms, and a friend from my old job offered to lend me some money for the lawyer. It's not much, but it's a start. As for my husband, he hasn't been back since the blow-up. He's staying with his brother, who called to berate me for breaking up the family. I told him he doesn't know half the story and hung up. The lawyer's paperwork is almost ready, and I'm planning to file next week. I found a small apartment that I can afford, and we're moving in a few days. It's a fresh start, and despite everything, I feel a strange sense of relief.